I am making a dual release game. Yes, just like Pokemon. Both games will have their differences in what content will be in the game, and both are made with different game engines. It'll be up to you on which one you like the most. Not only is this video a devlog, but a good way to know what version you would want to play when both versions come out. So let me just quickly talk about why I want this game to be a dual release. Both game engines, RPG Maker MV and RPG Maker VX Ace, have their upsides and downsides. To be specific, the VX Ace engine is good for how much freedom you get to create with your game, which allows stuff like bigger map sizes and bigger event pages. More on that later. With MV engine, it's way easier to make better looking sprites, animations, and resolution. There's little differences between them as well, I will also get into that later, but that's basically what you need to know. To give a quick list, I'll show some comparisons. For MV, there will be better graphics, better resolution, and my plan is to make it work on Mac, iOS, Android, and Linux. Hopefully. The only problem I could see with it is if you have an older Windows platform. I don't think MV will work, unfortunately. Another problem is that I've noticed this with the MV version, is that it has load times. I mean, they're not huge. If you play the beta right now, they're not really huge, but I feel like that's gonna be kind of a problem, when the game becomes bigger. And also less interactable NPCs. If you guys watched my devlog 4, I talked a little bit about how event pages are very important to the interactability of NPCs. I'll talk about that later, but let's get on to the other comparisons. Another problem with MV is that it has bigger file size. Not a lot of people are going to like this, so just keep in mind, if you want a smaller file size, probably just pick VX Ace. And a weird one is not really much of a good or bad thing. It is depending on like how you look on it, but smaller individual maps. So this will be in comparison to VX Ace, because VX Ace has a way bigger map, a way bigger world map, and compared to MV, it has smaller individual maps that connect to each other. And that can kind of be a problem depending on how you look at exploration, and I'll get into that later on. Now let's get on to VX Ace. This one does work on older Windows platform, so something like Windows XP, 7, 8, those should work. And there's also almost no load times, and even if you do get a load time, it should take only milliseconds. A lot of people claim that MV is faster than VX Ace, and maybe they're correct. I don't know too much about, both game engines. Like I don't master them, so maybe there's something I'm missing, but from using MV, I've noticed MV is way slower. More interactable NPCs, less file size, however, unfortunately has worse graphics, worse resolution, and it won't work on Mac, Linux, iOS, or Android. Only Windows. Now, again, this is another weird one. Bigger world map. It depends on what you like. If you like more bigger world maps, then by all means pick VX Ace. Unless you like MVs. Alright, so let me explain things to note about MV. Some may like the smaller map. It totally depends on your opinion on what's best. It kind of reminds me of how Wind Waker is compared to Hourglass with its overworld. Wind Waker's world was so big and empty that everyone hated it, including me. And the sequel, Hourglass, fixed that with a smaller open world. Now, while I hate Wind Waker's open world, there's something that was good about it. See, when everything is so close together, exploration doesn't really become fun, at least in my opinion, because you have such an easy time seeing everything around you. With a bigger open world, you get this thought of, what will I find? However, with a smaller open world, it doesn't work that way because everything's so close together that you never have this feeling of, oh, I found something. Again, this is a feeling that I have. It's one of the reasons why I love Minecraft, because with its super huge world, the fact of finding something like a temple makes you feel like you found a diamond in the rough. With a small open world, the joy of finding something cool in the middle of nowhere doesn't really exist since everything is so close to each other. Don't let that discourage you from using the MV version though. Of course, understandably, some people may like the smaller open world. Some may like that you can find stuff so easily. Plus, some people may not just be into having to go through super long lengths just to find something. Another thing to note about MV is that the MV version will come out later. So if you want to play Fate's Gamble day one that it comes out, just play the VX8 version. Although that might be a good thing, because people can bug test VX8, and I'll keep those bugs in mind for MV so you don't have to experience them. Things to note about VX8. If you want the intended experience, play VX8. Not saying that the VX8 version is better, but it is the intended experience, because this game was made with VX8 in mind, and MV limits some of those ideas I have for my game. VX8 will start out with technically no problems. Keyword technically. I don't know what is it with MV, but whenever I'm playtesting it, it sometimes gets errors or some graphical issues due to MV being slightly different to VX8. So if you want something that works straight out of the box, play Fate's Gamble VX8, because in Fate's Gamble MV, you might encounter an error that may or may not get rid of your save. Okay. Maybe I'm being a little bit over dramatic, because a cool feature about RPG Maker is that you can just add your save file to a new updated version of my game without losing any saves, but just in case you forgot to save, there may be small parts where something like that happens, and of course you don't want that. So if you want something that will start out more finished, play the VX8 version. I think now's a good time to talk about what I meant by more interactable NPCs. Well, VX8 has a thing called event pages. It's sort of complicated, but all you need to know is that these help in changing the event completely. So think of it this way. The more event pages, the more I can change the character.
So she should say you're neutral, which we are. So I'm going to add 10. She says you're slightly good. Just keep adding 10. And she should say now, because we are at 70, or 60, excuse me. Since we're at 60, which is greater than 50, she should say you're truly good. Which she does. And then let's subtract. So we should be at negative 10. She says you're slightly evil. And now that we should be at negative 60 and negative 70. Man, I can't count today. She says you're truly evil.
Because the character is an event. For example, I could have a character act one way and then totally act different another way, depending on your choices to make them feel real. So let's talk about the small stuff in my game. Or should I say, small differences. For some reason in the MV version, the red glow that happens when you get low HP pauses the game for a bit, and it also shows your HP. The battle start animation and the battle end is also different. Not sure if there will be any differences later on, but those are the small ones right now. Alright, Q&A. This will be a small section where I assume questions that people may have about this dual release. Will there be any unique content in each installment? Probably. Due to map limitations in the MV engine, I thought there might be less content, on that version, which made me kind of sad because I don't want people to look at the MV version as just the worst one with better graphics. So my idea to fix that was to add exclusive content in Fate's Gamble and V, but then that would result in VX Ace not having something cool in it as well. People who play VX Ace will just say, what the heck, why didn't I get this in my version? So I scratched that idea, and got some inspiration from the Oracle games, where you would use a wand to change the world around you. So all that content that could have been taken away could just be used for a separate part of the map that you changed. Another thing I plan on doing is utilizing TP. If you don't know, TP is treated as a limit break, which if I can recall is meant to be strong attacks that are used very limitedly, and unfortunately VX Ace does not have an event to change TP that only exists in MV. But either way, I do plan on seeing what else I can do to differentiate them both. Will I add a bonus for people who play MV and VX Ace? I am thinking of doing something like that, but I don't know how I would exactly. But again, yes, I would definitely like to do something like this, especially since my game is replayable. Alright, that's all I have to say. Please go check out Fate's Gamble in the link in the description. And by all means, go even check out my itch.io devlog. It really helped, so see you next time.